You had me to the stream, my bad. Hopefully you can see me in YouTube fashion. I guess when we're first getting started, there are times where we want to do reaction or response videos. Hey D1, hey Nyla. Mongo, salute to you. Red Pill Prince, let me see if I can share my screen. Without delay, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you, then I'm going to tell you, then I'm going to repeat exactly what I said, and I'm going to close down the stream. But I do have quite a few slides to get through, or three slides rather, some information that's going to go to unpack this, what you see on the slide, and then I'll get into my deeper part of the rant on how I actually feel about this situation here. But as you know, response videos are a part of the YouTube space, and I'll jump right into it. I gave it a nice little title, Red Pill Prince, which does have some symbolism there. But let's get started. Peace and bless out. Let me have my audio, because last time I think they played me on the audio too, so gotta double check all the boxes here. And again, Brother Moses, part of that B1 network, the most lively Black YouTube community or live streaming community that you can find is the interconnected B1 network. You have the Minister, you have O'Shea Boot Jackson is the host moderator over there. Morning talk, midday talk, afternoon talk, Monday through Sunday. You're most likely to find somebody that's a part of that network, a Black space and a Black space where you can have these type of conversations. You can turn on YouTube now, unlike being able to turn on DET and still see whatever was on DET. Oftentimes, not us and not us talking about meaningful things. Now I am finally able to access Black spaces and Black information. So shout out everyone that contributes in the content creation space. Let's jump on into it. Again, the reason why I am here is because someone did challenge and say, brother, get your perspective out there. Allow people to be critical, allow people to hear it. People can get that message out there. But playing a minor role, mostly as a contributor on other people's platforms, still learning the nuances of what it even takes to do these. You'll see a lot of streams as a part of the network, folks who have, more advanced skill sets, a green screen behind them, all the different bells and whistles. We could continue to work on that together as I find new information and new skill sets. I'll also bring those. I know they say the game is to be told, not sold. I mean, we'll do that in reverse. It's to be sold, not sold. Whoever said that was just being an asshole that day or a super capitalist. All right. Big old Bentley rant. Let me see if my screen is sharing. We're going to jump into this bad boy. I think you can see it because I can kind of see it there. All right. I'm not sure if I want to go all the way full screen with the slide because that would give you at least the ability to see the words or the content a little bit clearer than when it's kind of half screen like it is right here. But I'll tell you what it is, and yeah, maybe I'll jump into full screen for a second. Right here, I just took a standard screenshot. Very lively conversation, as you'll see here. A lot of the people are the members of the D1 network who are active participants who are fully engaged. Oh yeah, I just got my notification, so shout out YouTube for making sure that our bigger platforms are getting their notification and their analytics out there. Oftentimes, you'll find some YouTube content creators have to go the additional mile. They have to go to the Instagram. They have to go to the Facebook. They have to go to other platforms in order to share their content because their live stream or their pre-recorded content or whatever, their premieres, whatever it might be, is not actually reaching the full breadth of their network. And those people who do use YouTube a lot, they could log into YouTube and they could look on their screen when it's on the home screen and it will show them live things or, most recent or things that they follow and things, but it won't show that red notification that it's going live. And so the larger community, sometimes 200, 300, 400, 1,000 people that you can connect and engage with in real time across the world, whether you had business ideas or questions, whether you saw them on another live stream channel, whatever it might be, you can start seeing familiar faces and learning those stories and being able to connect. And that's where it's most powerful. And because it's most powerful, I believe that it is nefarious for YouTube not to share those analytics or not to share that live notification amongst those who are connected in these spaces. Sometimes when you're shopping even, and you're shopping online or maybe Amazon, they have a feature that said other people may like this. And that is a feature that is fully capable inside of YouTube. For them not to allow us to have the benefit of those features and functionality seems almost discriminatory. And that's why I say it's nefarious. I mean, but we're working with those who are there the best that we can to try to let them get familiar with our tone, our perception, the way we deliver content, even though they've restricted and flagged based off of somebody's perspective. Oftentimes, we still give them the benefit of the doubt there because we know that we are a valuable ad and a value add to the YouTube and the live streaming community in large, and that's on a global scale. So shout out those folks for getting their analytics to go all the way through. Big conversation coming up later about the prison industrial complex deconstructed. I will be tuning in to watch Nyla says B1 Network. I call her my goat. Taz exclusives, the teacher, is the GOAT, and then we are all the GOAT, and you should be the GOAT in something that you do in your life. And if you haven't figured that out yet, keep keep tuning in. There is no way you can keep tuning in to these types of live streams and this type of content without finding your purpose or without finding something that gives you that passion. All right, so 7 minutes is done. Let's jump into it. I have decided that I will go full screen on this slide so you can actually see a little bit more of it. We'll start with the receipts and then move forward. So RBR Network has challenged many of content creators on their content, on their delivery, on the information that they present. I am not immune to it. I get the orange notification. He oranges me from time to time as well. The response will be to that, the Red Pill Prince. He says, everyone's afraid to push back on AM1 while they ignore his disrespect of me. So yes, sometimes RBR be in his feelings, and he likes to call people out on that. But he goes on to say, it illustrates how a lack of morality is valued more in our society. And then he asks Gab Talk Media, who was once part of the Nation of the Fruit of Islam. I'm not sure which one, but I need to ask him. I think he's part of the nation. And I don't know whether or not once you're a part, if there is a I'm not as active and thus I'm not a part anymore, or is it just I'm not as active or I don't attend? So he also added me, he added Tony Smith. Got to find out more about Tony Smith. I've heard his name seen going through. Moderator on many channels, always chimes in with great perspectives. But more than that, as a moderator, he will drop the links to some of the other YouTube content creators in real time so that folks who are engaging in the chat can have access to shared information in a shared space. Hopefully also driving the analytics and that little notification on the side that would say people who listen to also like boom, boom, boom. Art Nozzle TV, for example, or Art Nozzle, however you want to say it. But let's jump into it. Bro Rob, I have to salute him. Salute Brother Kenny. This Betty White person here, just like most Planned Parenthoods are put in the hood, it's on purpose. That was another one of the things that I was initially going to jump into, but then I remembered that that is just someone who loves to join black spaces, but is most likely white, as their name indicates, and thus they come from a different education or perspective than I can address in one video. That would have to be a series, something like the Wow series. But let me jump into it. Shout out my boy. Let me see if I can turn it down just a bit. Ramil for the beat. The beat is called the 48 Laws. What I wanted to jump into there on the bottom, you saw the bullets. Oh, shoot, we just jumped all the way over. Canon law was the first modern Western legal system. So it's a twofer there. He says the 48 laws of power. People talk about Sun Tzu, but what has the deepest impact for us is canon law. Catholicism is still huge. This was the first modern Western legal system. So in order to understand the laws and what it becomes the law, the process of making laws, governance, and all of those things, canon law was the first major influence. And so it's going to dive us into the 1400s, Augustine, the City of God, 1470, and then Martin Luther, which I wanted to jump into. All right. So this bottom section, Thomas Aquinas, as we know, synthesized the Aristotelian philosophy with Christianity. It was a huge influence. The biblical references, the Islam spread through north part of Africa and deeper from the old Persian Empire into all the way through the 1400s into Spain. And then in the 1400s is where they finally were, they had built mosques and established great, like places of worship, I would say, in Spain and such, Moors and everything. So the 1400s and Islam was being repelled by these folks through unity and Christopher Columbus finding new lands and all that stuff. So that time period was influenced also by great thinkers, that some would say, or impactful thinkers if we don't consider them great by definition. But Augustine was one, and his works, The City of God, of 1470, um, it's giving a biblical narrative that when you're determining what should be the laws that govern people and their affairs and their lives, um, very deep reading. Martin Luther, definitely as a Morehouse grad, Martin Luther King Jr. had to learn. I had to dive a little bit deeper there and bring that out because also around that time period was Martin Luther in a Protestant or protesting or movement, and so it's still that juxtaposition between the rule by church or by divinity, and then the rule of state or lords, monarchies, provincial governors, and them establishing territories and dominion over spaces. Um, that is the preference. Niccolo Machiavelli, 1469 to 1527, was the father of political science. So you'll see the connectivity there. You have a Western legal system, and then you have political science. So there's the declaration and the peopling, well, the peopling first, then the declaration that we are your governing, and then the study or the political science, which is by observation of the places where monarchy or monarchical rule was working, and the places where monarchical rule was suffering or getting some pushback, rebellions, and things. Um, and they needed to study that in order to try to uproot what Islam had done there in Spain and how it was dominating their people. And in order to uproot it, only creates a vacuum that then needed to be filled with a new ruling class. So in war, there are people who are actually headhunted, as well as there's those people who are pushed to the front lines to repel an invasion. And if they're unsuccessful at repelling that invasion, then the people who are invading are then able to push forward all the way through to those that they were headhunting. And failed monarchies or failed monarchical rule and their established people. This is my provincial governor who may be a cousin or a friend of the family or someone who had fought in a recent battle alongside maybe one of their fathers. May have earned the right to land and to be lords and large land grants as a model. And that large land grant to be made productive allowed for certain leadership or governance, decision making, and authority. Um, and so the prince of Red Pill says the other and better course is established settlements, colonies, in one or two places, which will tie the state to you, not the other way around, to be dependent upon the government, but that will tie the state to you because you will realize that when you are speaking from a position of power, you are equal or greater than the state that has declared governance or rule over you and appoint or studied and appointed people to which they deem worthy of governing your black body. If you do not do this, he goes on to say in the prince, you will have to keep part of your army there. All right. And so again, you are repelling the Islam. What it's done, its influence in Spain, you are replacing it with people that you find to be, for whatever reason, worthy of governing this large tract of land that you have granted them. And his perspective, as summarized, is as a ruler, it is better to be feared than loved. And we can talk about the Red Prince connection, but I'm hoping that people can just grasp it from men running the world and the way men are articulating themselves and expressing themselves through their interactions with other men. There are so many more people who had advanced that thought with counter narratives who were equally as influential in other spaces, not just in Spain, but also in Britain that became a superpower, France and such, that we could go into. And I've done it before, which is call them out, the white daddies, I would say. But rather than continue down that line, I want to do something different for you. Let me get up out of that. So there you see it again. Quick screenshot in response or a response from a video. I think we're almost about time. We got a little bit of time before the next stream starts, so I'll keep going. But the idea was it illustrates how a lack of morality is valued more in our society. And so I have to bring that out. And to do so, I don't always like to use my own words. I offer you the print. 16th century or the 1500s political treatise by the Italian diplomat and political theorist Niccolo Machiavelli. From his correspondence, a version appears to have been distributed in 1513 using a Latin title, almost like the Principalities or of Principalities. I'm not going to even attempt to try to say it in Latin. I'll let them tell you, because if a black man tells you, you feel like I'm talking in circles or it's not relevant and try to undermine it. I'll show you that it's red pill. One of the goals in writing The Prince was to win the favor of Lorenzo de Medici. You can go to Netflix and watch the Medici family and how they govern. It has a series of different interplay, interconnected drama. But the then governor, as we're saying, of Florence, and the person to whom the book is dedicated, Machiavelli hoped to land an advisory position within the Florentine government. Why? Because they're replacing the black folks. That is fact. What is Machiavelli trying to say in The Prince? The descriptions within The Prince have the general theme of accepting that the aims of princes, such as glory and survival, can justify the use of immoral means to achieve those ends. He who neglects what is done for what ought to be done sooner affects his ruin than his preservation. Say that one more time. The descriptions within The Prince have the general theme of accepting that the aims of princes, such as glory and survival, can justify the use of immoral means to achieve those ends. He who neglects what is done for what ought to be done sooner affects his ruin than his preservation. I could say it one more time, but just some key call outs. How does it connect when you're dealing with men or people speaking from a position of power to the household? How does it play itself out in shared communal spaces? And how does it move a nation? Glory is still tied to the wars and the battles that we have to fight as we continue to have conflict. Survival is whatever preparation is needed on your behalf to survive or to exist after said conflict. Justification means that there is someone who will try to use what you say or do against you. Immoral was the justification for inserting said church or religious doctrine. The right is the wrong. M meaning not using what the church or what the governing body has determined to be the right way of doing things. And in fact, it goes a step further and says doing the opposite of what they said to be the right thing to do. Means whatever activities that one might take to achieve those ends. is the primary focus, even though they put it at the end of the statement. It is about the end. It will affect his ruin, which is an outcome, or his preservation, which was the sought outcome. And so, what was happening in that time period as a significant form of communication were painting, art, religious based as a medium. It was at first outlawed because the church didn't want icons and symbols, blasphemies, golden pillars, golden calves, all of that. But it was a way to communicate a message. Iconoclasm, which refers to the destruction of images of hostility toward visual representations in general. This is coming from Lumen Learning, some of their courses. Shook the Byzantine Empire. So that's the Romans, and then all the way through to their fall and now into the Dark Ages. Some historians believe that by prohibiting icons, the emperor sought to integrate Muslim and Jewish populations. So your interactions, your conflicts are now on a more diverse scale. You're interacting with Muslim and Jewish, not just Christian, not just agnostic and polytheists, Visigoths, and all of those other folks who are coming from Northern Europe, down in Spain and such, Vandals, Huns. But both Muslims and Jews perceived Christian images that existed from the earliest times of Christianity as idols and in direct opposition to the Old Testament prohibition of visual representation. Again, he stick with us, Florence, in about 1445 to 46, with the birth of the name Alessandro de Mirana. Quite a mouthful, it's understandable, but over the course of his Christian name, Alessandro became shortened to Sandro. The name Bocelli, meaning little barrel, was the nickname of the well-rounded older brother. With the exception of his work in the Sistine Chapel in Rome, and brief excursions outside the rest of his life, he lived right there in the same area. Florence, same place where Niccolo Machiavelli was trying to become in the leadership class. And what they were doing was putting their art as far and as wide as they could in order to send that message of control and dominance using a Christian-based medium, protecting white angels, I guess, or their own symbol of God. Telling about a heaven, telling about a hell. Mysticism. One of their major, like Leonardo da Vinci, which folks should know, same Renaissance era. The reason why their paintings still sell for tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars is because it is linked to this same period. We've got about 10 minutes there until the next one, so we'll keep giving you this information. The chapel in the Vatican was one of the places that was often invaded through conflict of those other folks who were trying to send this message. And Ouster, appreciate that. The ruling class. Appreciate you, Chazé. I wanted to jump into some of the more prolific paintings, but I'll give you this one more. Also around that time, the Inferno, Dante Alighieri's. It was finally getting its traction. This was words, and a lot of people weren't as literate. And so it becomes plays and such, skits, dramas, things that you could find outside of the church and getting your message there. But it depicted hell. Let me give you a little bit more on the screen. It depicted stages of hell or a journey through hell. It was called a divine comedy. Something similar to what I would say about some channels. I call it comedic. It goes through its contos or its different songs. They're almost psalms. It connects it to a lot of the different biblical verses that were relevant at the time, the leaders. It is deep. Talks about the violence. Abandon all hope. Why am I bringing this information out? Let me jump back in it. Stop sharing the screen. All right. I want to set a premise of understanding information through the lens of both how we can experience it in our lifetime and what we go through and what we go through in our household. And when men are trying to transcribe or try to give information, lessons and learnings and things, um, what I've experienced, I guess, in my lens that can have a broader ramification is that there will always be that juxtaposition between the church trying attempting to determine for your conscience what is right, what is wrong, and what ought not be. Um, Red pill mentality, from my perspective, and as I would sum it up, is an ideology connected to the one that says I can throw off what is moral at my own leisure and at my own benefit in order to achieve the end that I would like to see the result of. So if it is the complete domination in their household of their woman, that woman is now submissive, that woman is now under their heel and compliant, then that will be the issue that they most talk about. And they will talk about it ad nauseum, ad exhaust. And Brother Gab, since of spirituality and religion, we had a conversation. I'm glad he didn't respond to it, but I will, because many of these same people are throwing off the church and its influence, the Bible, even books altogether. Won't read newspaper articles or anything, nothing do. And so the entire premise of moral or the juxtaposition that would exist in a rational person who is saying, well, no, that's not right, or no, that's wrong, then becomes at odds, right? Because you're talking to somebody who doesn't identify that to be of value to them. There's no book that we can quote. There's no, this is where that happened. This is where you're taking that information from. And where you get it wrong, you are not acting or speaking from a position of power or authority, but you're trying to use the talking point from people who are in, or at least vying for, positions of authority. And you've scaled and watered it down so small, I can't even give it, so small that it's really only for you and your own household. But you come into spaces that interconnect thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people, which is power. Talking about weak shit. Again, I barely try to use myself as an example, but something that I would say is if you don't want to wash another dish, that will be between you and the person that you bring into your space. But there are some very strong messages out there that deserve brothers who speak from a position of power, right? That need brothers who speak from a position of power, check, and that can understand that YouTube is a global phenomenon. And in order for those strong brothers to have the same access, equal or greater than access, to have powerful conversations that can actually enact power, right? That can, let me look right there. Powerful conversations that can impact power, governance, provincial governance, political campaign leaders, the people who they're pushing, businesses, large scale business owners, Robert Smith, um, so forth and beyond. If we're going to get cooperation, if we're going to get marketing, we're going to get access, equal and unmolested access, then they have to see our value. And our value, as big as it can be, is being lost or being subverted by those with irrelevant, sorry, bro, but irrelevant. Entertaining, comedic, sure, but it's irrelevant. All right, so let me say this. Brother RBR, all respect to you. I got to jump off. But moral, immoral, you're still talking about somebody else's moral and immoral until you unpack that a little bit deeper. Were you talking about what was moral or immoral from the Muslim side that was in dominance there? Or are you talking about the red pill prince when he took moral and immoral and broke it down, and you had all of the art from the Renaissance movement, the Leonardo da Vinci's, the Michelangelo's, the depictions of David from the Jewish side, and the Sistine Chapel, and everything on the roof, and that medium of moving Christianity and angels, and Dante's Inferno, the depiction of hell to move this Christian medium and its information to an illiterate people across the world and across the New World with Christopher Columbus and up into Britain, and then from Britain all the way back down. And are you talking about that moral? That same motherfucker that was using slavery to do so? Or were you talking about before it, which is the Muslim, and saying we need to continue with our interconnectedness as brothers and keep our brotherhood strong without attempting to tear other brothers down? I've noticed on your channel, as my only correction I would offer, that you do also have the tendency to attempt to tear brothers down rather than tearing down the information. I think if you could look at it from a more optimistic lens, you've been through a lot, so that might be asking for a lot. Secondly, as people know, I am on a tirade against Mumia Obsidian Ali because his name holds a lot of relevance. Black glass is sharp. It was volcanic rock, one of the sharpest tools or weapons that defended us for so many years. Obsidian is and still was and will be. And so I respect him, but I have to disagree. I think he speaks on an irrelevant position. But when you actually get him to open up, the brother does have knowledge, which is my only offense that I would hold out there. Brother Gab Talk, thanks for having me on the channel. We got to connect again. Ramil, thanks for the beat. 48 laws, as we saw, it was connected. Canon law was that first law. And right now, one of the biggest threats to our society or to our culture will be the appropriation. Got to jump off. Peace and black power. Thanks for watching.